I'm Kara Gothier, and this is Infertility Mental Health, episode number 1. Infertility is mentally exhausting. I know, I've been through it, and the toll it takes on your emotional well-being is significant. If you are stuck in infertility limbo right now, this is the podcast for you. My name is Kara Gothier, and I am a certified infertility life coach, the mother of 2 manifested miracles, and I can teach you how to be mentally healthy during this chapter of life. If you are ready for change, if you are ready for your real life to begin now, join me, and let's get into the mindset to motherhood. Hello there, aspiring mama, and welcome to the Infertility Mental Health Podcast. My name is Kara Gothier, and I am the infertility life coach and the host of this show. And I am so glad that you are here and that you have found this as a resource for yourself and your mental health as you're working through infertility. I will share so much about my story and so much about what I've been through with infertility throughout the episodes of this show, but I don't want to focus on that in this first episode, because if you're here, you are most likely one of the millions of people that is stuck in infertility limbo. Infertility limbo is this space and time between that moment that you decided that you wanted to be a mother and the moment that hasn't yet happened where you actually realize that role in your life. So if you're stuck in that place right now, I feel you. I was in that place for a long time, several years in fact, and I didn't know if I was ever going to get out of it. And it felt so awful to be stuck in that phase of my life for so long. So I can imagine, because I know what that space is like, I can imagine what you're thinking right now and sort of what your days are like and some of the thoughts you're having and definitely some of the feelings that you're having. And I know how difficult it is. I also know that there is something that is helpful during all of this. And that is what I'm going to give you in this podcast. I'm going to give you a resource with tools and information for your mental health so that you can live your life and enjoy your life while you work towards your goal of motherhood. I know for me personally, when I was stuck in infertility limbo, I felt like the world had stopped, that my ability to feel joy had stopped, my ability to embrace life as it was had just ceased. And that felt so awful because I was waiting. I was hinging everything about my happiness on whether or not the pregnancy test was going to be positive that month. I can tell you this, and you probably already know, that living that way is so dangerous. And it's a way of life that doesn't really serve you and doesn't do you any good in the long term because you end up outsourcing your happiness. Your happiness then becomes dependent on something that is external to you. And whenever we do that, whenever we place our happiness or anything about our lives on an external entity, it doesn't turn out well. So in this episode, this first episode, I want to talk about why you are stuck. Most of the time, we think that we are stuck because we don't have that baby yet. We don't have access to treatment yet. We don't have funding. We don't have our partner's approval. We don't have something, and that is why we think we're stuck. But I can tell you, it's none of those reasons. The reason you're stuck in infertility limbo is none of those reasons. The reason that you are stuck in infertility limbo right now is because of a thought you are having. Can it be that simple? The answer is yes. The reason that you are stuck and that you aren't moving forward or taking action is because of a thought you are having in your mind. So what are the thoughts you are thinking? What are the things that are contributing to you not moving forward? Well, everything that we do or don't do in our lives is based on a feeling that we want to feel or based on avoiding a feeling that we don't want to feel. Most of the time with infertility, it's the latter, where there's a feeling that we have felt before that we don't want to feel again. And so we're motivated to do anything at all costs to avoid that feeling. But feelings are just simple vibrations in our body that are caused by our thinking. That's it. That's all they are. They're essentially harmless, but we are so influenced to react to them or to do something with them that we tailor our lives around the way that we feel. When we do that, we end up giving so much of our power and so much of our life energy away to our feelings. So if you're stuck in infertility limbo right now, there is a thought that is driving that feeling for you. There's a simple sentence in your mind that you're telling yourself that is contributing to that feeling of being stuck. All the thoughts that you think either drive or stall your existence in the world simply by the feeling that it creates for you. So if you're thinking thoughts that are contributing to you feeling hopeful, you are probably more motivated to go and pursue treatment or pursue an option that you hadn't considered otherwise. Whereas if you're thinking a thought like, this is never going to work for me, then that leads to you feeling pretty awful. You're probably not going to be open to any option that comes your way. You're probably going to be closed up and not try anything that might be an opportunity for you in the future. Anytime you're feeling stalled, anytime you're feeling stuck in limbo, it's because of a thought that you are currently thinking. So how you feel is ultimately determined by you. It's determined by what you are choosing to think. All of your thoughts drive your feelings, and from your feelings, you are then motivated to take action in some way, or perhaps inaction, and then all of your actions contribute to your results. So the results that you have in your life are directly linked to the thoughts that you are thinking. If you want to change the results in your life, you have to change the thoughts that you're having. So this might sound really basic, but I promise you that when you actually apply it, it's revolutionary. There's a process called the self-coaching model that I use with my clients. I use it with myself too, that takes you through all of this, takes you through the thought process to your feelings, to your actions, to your results. And it's a magical revelation tool to figure out why you are stuck, why you are unhappy, why you are not living the life of your dreams right now in any way that might be true for you. So you're probably thinking, okay, I understand. My thoughts are contributing to all of this, but how can I change my thoughts? And I would say, hold on, wait a minute, pump the brakes. We first have to notice what's going on inside of our heads before we can change it. And that is the real challenge of all of this, is most of the time we think that the things that we're thinking are absolute facts. And trust me, the amount of thoughts that are going through your head every day, very, very few of those things are facts. Separating out what are actual facts from thoughts in this process is a skill that even still to this day that I'm refining for myself. Every time I sit down to do self-coaching for myself, I am amazed at what my brain produces and what I think is truth and what turns out to be just a thought. It's humbling. It's actually really humbling work if you dive into it deeply. We have all of these thoughts about the circumstances of the world. And circumstances are those things that happen in the world around us, things that we don't control. Examples of this include things like the weather or our past or other people's behavior. These are all things that we cannot directly change and we cannot do anything about. And I want to kind of put this idea in your head this early in the podcast, but that baby that you are thinking about, that you are consumed day and night thinking about, that baby is an external circumstance to you. Ultimately, we are talking about a child, right? A separate person, a separate being entirely from you. And in this process of becoming a mother, that by definition is a circumstance. It's another person, something external to you. So when we think about that future baby, when we think about that future child, they are separate from us. We have so many thoughts about them, but it's important to recognize that they are a circumstance, something that's external to you. The entire process of infertility pretty much is sorting through the thoughts that you have about that future baby, about your body, about what you're capable of, about your partner, all of these things. We have so many thoughts about them in this process of working towards motherhood. And some of those things we're aware of, but most of the time we're not aware at all of what we're thinking. The self-deprecating thoughts that come up during infertility, thinking things like, I don't deserve this, this is never going to happen for me, I can't get where I want. All of those things are completely transient entities running through your head. all of those thoughts are optional. And that's a beautiful thing, because while we can't change our circumstances, we can change what we think about those circumstances in our lives. I mentioned this before, but all of our thoughts create our feelings. And feelings are those emotions or vibrations that we experience in our bodies, and they're directly related to the thoughts that we're thinking. Some examples of this, especially during infertility, include things like anger or sadness or disappointment. Now, don't confuse feelings with physical involuntary sensations such as hunger, cold reflex, physical pain, things like that. Emotions are voluntary because we can change what we feel by changing our thoughts. All of our feelings then drive our actions. And actions refer to behaviors, reactions, or inactions, and they are directly related to our feelings. Some examples of this include things like eating when we're not hungry because we're feeling lonely, or avoiding interaction with our boss because we're feeling anger, or withdrawing from relationships because we're feeling sad. If we want different actions, we can choose different feelings. Results are the effects of our actions. And examples of this include things like being overweight because we've been eating when we're not hungry, or having dysfunctional working relationships because we're avoiding interactions with our boss. Choosing different actions will lead us to different results. So ultimately, there are circumstances that exist in the world. We have thoughts about them. Those thoughts generate feelings within us, which then drive the actions that we do or don't do, and that gives us the results of our lives. Our thoughts are always a direct link to the results that we have in our life. So you have to go through a process of understanding what your thoughts are in order to change them. And once you have an idea of what it is that you're actually thinking and feeling, then you can move into a place of making deliberate effort to change what you're thinking and change what you're feeling, which ultimately will change how you show up and then what the results you get are in your life. This is such a simple structure, and that's why I love it so much. As a life coach, it's a simple structure to work with when you're stuck and you're trying to work through a problem or work through a situation where you're feeling just not the best and you're not getting the result that you want in your life. To bring it all back around, if you are in infertility limbo now, you're probably feeling stuck or disappointed or sad or a number of negative emotions that usually come up in this space. If you are like me, you also think that once that positive pregnancy test comes through, that you are going to be magically cured of all of this negative emotion. And I can tell you now that that's not the case. And this is only because negative emotion will exist no matter what day of your life you land on. There's always going to be a side of negative emotion that you're going to experience because you are a human being. If you think I'm going to feel so much better once I have a positive pregnancy test, that probably is true, because when you see that positive pregnancy test, you are going to think something that is going to generate positive emotions within you. The interesting thing is, any of those thoughts that you will generate on that day that you see that positive pregnancy test, all of those thoughts are available to you now. All of them are. All of those thoughts can create any kind of feeling that makes you feel hopeful or uplifted or happy. Any of those thoughts are available to you now. Every thought you have is optional, and any thought that you want to give yourself to create or generate that feeling, that positive feeling of excitement or joy or happiness, is available right now, today. You don't need a positive pregnancy test or any other external circumstance out there to decide how you want to think right now. If you're feeling particularly stuck in this phase of life right now, I challenge you to start noticing what it is that you're thinking. Start paying attention to those sentences that are running through your mind. Start to just notice them. Start to pay attention to them. Start to even be aware of what is the story that you are telling about yourself as you are working towards motherhood. The reason that you're stuck is not because your husband and you haven't agreed on the treatment plan going forward. The reason that you're stuck is because of what you think about it and what you think about the conversations you have had. what you think about your finances, what do you think about your body and its ability. Those are the things that are keeping you stuck where you are. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode and just remind you, because I don't know if anyone has told this to you lately, but you are wise, you are whole, and you are worthy of everything you want your life to be, even during infertility. I love you, and I will talk to you in the next episode. If what I said in this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to download the Infertility Mental Health Checklist, which is a checklist of 9 life coaching tools that I put together that will help you through the struggle. If you want that, go to my website, infertilitylifecoach.com/checklist, and sign up. You'll get a copy immediately, and you can start doing this work today.